The 2020 MLB season is already in jeopardy. The absence of a bubble like other sports have implemented means players, teams, and the league need to work together to make sure the abbreviated season can continue. After about 2 weeks, it's been a ridiculous failure. The Marlins have already had a major outbreak, more than 20 games have been postponed, and the future of the season is in question. This isn't all the players' fault. Commissioner Rob Manfred deserves a majority of the blame for letting the season progress without implementing sufficient safeguards. The MLB return to play plan was rushed, poorly executed, and failed to account for a multitude of scenarios that we are now seeing emerge. The St. Louis Cardinals are the latest team to have an outbreak, and it poses another threat to the long-term viability of the MLB season. At this point, positive tests are bound to happen, even with a bubble like the ones basketball and hockey are using. There's no way of completely avoiding the virus. With strict quarantine rules and testing, gaps remain. And that's if players and coaches are doing everything they can do to adhere to COVID's best practices. Fans noticed the Cardinals weren't doing a good job upholding MLB's guidelines on social distancing, participating in high fives during their 6 games back from the break, despite rules saying players should avoid contact with each other. Then this report emerged, coming on Twitter from Jerry Hairston Jr. Quote, a few Marlins go to a club, and now I'm hearing a few Cardinals went to a casino. That's not following protocols. MLB players are furious because 28 other teams have worked hard to follow guidelines, end quote. With the source of the Cardinals outbreak largely unknown, Jerry Hairston Jr. reported that a few players went to a casino following their series against the Twins. Obviously, this represents a huge breach in protective measures and is a considerable risk to the rest of the league at a time where players and coaches are supposed to be working to ensure games can be played as safely as possible. The rumor was corroborated by MLB insider John Heyman, which caused the Cardinals to work overtime on spin control to say there's no truth to the rumors their players would ever be foolish enough to go to a casino in the middle of a pandemic and potentially help jeopardize the entire season. Team president John Mozeliak tried to defend the possibility his players were unsafe, but he did so in the weirdest way. Quote, we understand there are going to be risks, just the inherent risk playing in the middle of a pandemic. Would it make it easier if we said, oh, somebody went to a strip joint? End quote. Well, yes. Yes, John, as a matter of fact, it would make it much easier if you guys would just notify the league when finding out that a player went to a strip club. In fact, it wouldn't only be easier, but it would be the most responsible thing to do in that case. Then the player could be quarantined, monitored, have their exposure to others limited, institute contact tracing, and ensure rapid testing. That might not sound easy, but it's less work than doing nothing, waiting for an outbreak, and then trying to do damage control while everyone else's season is at risk. I'm Eddie Cartim for the Drunk Sports Podcast.